Running a trades business isn't just about what you build, it's about what you learn, and sometimes the hard way. It's the kind of knowledge you pick up over time and wish someone had handed you soon. Welcome to Trade Secrets, powered by Metabo HPT, a podcast series where trusted, successful tradespeople and qualified experts will share best practices, strategies, ideas, even tricks and hacks that you need to know. Think of it as another reliable tool from Metabo HPT, just not one you keep in your truck, but one that helps you run your business better. Hey everyone, welcome to Trade Secrets powered by Metabo HPT, where we talk with everyone from seasoned trade pros to behind the scenes experts about real world strategies, approaches, ideas, we call them trade secrets, that will help you grow and run a successful trades business. Now, I know every owner out there in the audience has been told by someone at some point that they need to start delegating more. And while that's definitely solid advice, no one ever really gets into the reasons why that's so important. In other words, the benefits of doing it, and even more importantly, how to do it, especially when you're busy running your business or even trying to get your business off the ground. So we decided to really dig into this delegate more advice that we all hear all the time. And we have the perfect person here to discuss that. And that's Wade Thomas, the founder of Aim to Win, which is a business consultancy that helps owners of trades companies like all of you. And Wade is going to walk us through how you can delegate without hesitation and free yourself from this daily grind and really build a business that grows without draining you. Wade, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really excited about this episode because delegation seems easy. We always talk about it, but man, it really makes or breaks businesses. And you really have to have practical strategies because it's just not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah. And Wade, before we get into the discussion, maybe you could just tell us a bit about yourself, a little bit about your company, and even how you started working with trades companies.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm a recovering home building executive. I held senior executive roles for, let's just say, a long time. And about 10 years ago, I decided to leave the corporate world and I started Aim to Win, coaching consultancy, really based on helping business owners and leaders be more successful, both personally and professionally. So in my home building experience, and also in the early days of the practice, I saw a lot of trades just burning out. They were working 60 or 70-hour weeks. They were making good money, but everything was kind of in their head. And I said, this is really, where I want to spend my time. That's where I really developed a passion for helping the trades.
So Wade, in my introduction, I touched on the fact that delegating more is advice that owners out there, they hear it all the time, but it's hard to do. And I want to begin by maybe having you tell us some of the reasons why they really do need to start delegating more. In other words, the benefits of doing it, and maybe even touch on some of the risks of not doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, on the business side of things, we've all heard the cliche. You want to work on your business, not in your business. And that's more than a cliche. That's real. So when you learn to delegate and get a lot of that stuff off your plate, that allows you to focus on strategy, on how you're going to grow your business, actually going out there and meeting people, growing your business, building relationships, building your team, taking time to really make sure you have the right people in place. Because a lot of times, we go through that interview process like really fast because we got to go fix something. And the other kind of the sneaky part in the business side is when you do delegate, your people love it. They get more excited. They feel like they're a part owner in the business. They're engaged. They're going to solve problems with solutions that maybe you didn't even think of, as opposed to you solving all their problems. So really, really important on the business side. But the personal side, the advantage of delegating is you get to take a vacation.
Right.
And, I oftentimes will start off, a speech with asking a show of hands for how many people, could step away from their business for 2 weeks and never check their phone. There's no hands. And that's what I'm after. is when you delegate, you can step away from your business like that, and you can take a vacation. You can go see your family. Most importantly, you don't burn out. I hate to break it to you, 60 to 70 hour weeks is not sustainable. At some point, it's going to catch up to you. And I think you asked about risks as well. There's some risks to not delegating. One thing is you become the bottleneck. If you have to solve every problem, answer every question, you know, what if you're in a meeting and somebody can't get a hold of you on the phone? If they have to wait an hour, that's a valuable hour you just lost there. That's a huge risk. The other thing is if you're solving all the problems, if you're doing everything, your people are going to act like robots. They're not going to solve their own problems. They're not going to be as effective. The work product that you deliver to your customers is not going to be as good. And you may go out there and you may find a lot of mistakes, but you want your employees to be able to do that. And the other thing I would throw in there is at some point, we all want to leave our business, right? And we want to sell. If you're the business, guess what? Your business isn't sellable. You have to have a real business. It can't just be you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, the exit is kind of threatened in that case. Wade, like I said, it's very hard for a lot of company owners and managers to do this. I mean, like you said, you ask the question, no one raises their hand, and I'm curious to hear why you think that is. What is it about delegation that people find so difficult, or maybe even uncomfortable, maybe scary, that leads them to avoid it, or maybe put it off for as long as they possibly can?
Yeah, this is an interesting question because there's a lot of different reasons, and for some people it's one reason, some people it's 4 reasons, and there's quite a few of them. The first one that I see a lot is control. Nobody can do it as well as I can do it, and that's a big deal. The second one I see is what I call the time myth. It's going to take me more time to teach them how to do it than to just go and do it myself. Where that becomes a myth is when you have to teach them how to do it over and over and over and over again. Or when you have to actually do it for them over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of just teaching them once. Right. That's when you add all that up, it's almost always better to take the time to teach them to do something. The other one is another one is fear of mistakes. I'm worried that Bob's going to go screw it up. And there's a lot of concern there. Kind of goes along with that control part of it too, but it's a little bit deeper in that they're just afraid that it's not going to be perfect if they don't do it themselves. And finally, and this is kind of a sneaky one, and it's a big one. And I like to tell an example of this. I was talking to somebody that had grown their company quite large. It's about 100 employees. He had started just doing the work himself, like we all have, right? And he shared with me, he says, it's really tough. I drive down the road and I see that house. And I used to be able to say, hey, I built that. Now I can't say that anymore because other people are building it. And they feel a sense of loss.
Oh.
And so a lot of people have the identity in the actual work product. And that's sometimes really hard for somebody to let go.
Yeah, and it's interesting. First of all, I love the time one because I totally agree with that. I think it truly is a myth because you don't think about the fact that when you think about it as the person who is going to be doing the delegating, you look at it and go, the common phrase is, by the time I teach that person to do it, I could have had it done. That's right. What everybody loves to say. But like you said, I mean, the truth is, if you take the time to teach them, you can move on to something else. It ultimately, if you look at the lifespan of that task or whatever it might be, it will save you time in the long run to delegate it. Just maybe not up front, but it catches up to you. And I do think the control one's interesting. I think it also plays a little bit into ego.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of ego in there as well, which is, who's going to do it better than me? Right? No one's going to do it.
It might be true, by the way. But what else could you be doing?
Right. Yep. So, okay. So look, a lot of benefits to doing this, a lot of risks, but it's difficult. And that brings me to the big question, which is, what the heck can people start? What can they do to start delegating without hesitating? Do it more frequently, with more confidence, with more comfort.
Yeah. It's a process. And it's not a matter of you can't just go and say, I'm going to hand this off, because then your control is going to get in the way. Your time myth is going to get in the way. It's all going to get in the way, right? So the first thing is you really have to get the business out of your head. So many times we as founders, everything's up here. So it makes it really hard to delegate, even if we want to. You know how long it's going to take to teach somebody when it's all in my head? So the first thing you have to do is really get that out, get it into standard operating procedures, business models, checklists, things like that, so that you have something that you can then go and delegate with. Then the second thing I say is, along with that, is start small. Don't delegate your entire business at once.
Right.
It's going to drive you crazy.
Baby steps.
Yep, baby steps. Find something small in your business. Delegate that out. Test it out. The next part, though, about delegation is, and this is really important, you got to choose the right person. I've seen this many, many times where I'm just going to delegate to the person that's been with me the longest, or maybe the person that's closest to me. If you don't delegate to the right person, think about it. They screw up. Are you going to delegate again?
You're done.
Take you. Yeah. To get back
Delegation's off the table at that point.
Yeah. You got to choose the right person. You got to make sure that they're capable of doing it the way you want them to do it. And then next after that is, once you've figured out that person, then you set the clear expectations. You use your SOPs. You use your business model and say, this is what needs to be done, and this is how I want you to do it. The how is important too, because even if they get it done, most founders, it's going to drive them nuts if they're not doing them the way they want them to do it. And I'm one of them.
Yeah.
So I'll admit to that. So setting the clear expectations, and then you want to provide tools and training. So make sure you train them, of course, but also put some tools in there, both for them and for you. Have checklists, have metrics, things that they can use to make sure they're doing it right, but also things that you can use to make sure they're doing it right, because that's how you're going to build your trust. You do that for a while, then it becomes natural to have that trust, and a delegation comes a lot easier. And then you can really take a vacation, because at the beginning of delegation, you're still not taking that vacation. And at the end of it, once you're in that state, step back, but don't disappear. Still be there. Be there to answer questions. Be there to spot check, inspect what you expect, right? But don't micromanage. Be able to step back and work on your business, not in your business.
I mean, you just laid it out. There's six very clear, simple steps right there. So Wade, I think it's pretty obvious that you've helped a lot of owners and a lot of managers start delegating, and I'm sure you get to see the results, or at least hear about them. And I'm wondering maybe if you could share a story or an example with us about a company, an owner, a manager who applied these steps that you just went through.
Yeah. One of my favorite examples was a commercial cleaning company I worked with. Wanted to step out of their business. They wanted to start a nonprofit. It wasn't about vacations, things like that.
Wow.
But he didn't have time. He was working 60 or 70 hours a week. He was really afraid to delegate because he was afraid they're going to make mistakes. He was afraid to step away from the clients because, the clients need to see me. I'm the guy. And so what we did is we started off by just pulling the business out of his head, creating the SOPs, getting it all down. Ended up being actually fairly simple. We went out and found a number two, a COO, gave him the SOPs, started involving him more and more in the business. While we did this, we learned that, the clients didn't really need to see him. They wanted to know he was around, but, yeah. They didn't really need to see him.
There's that ego again, right? Where you think everybody needs to see you.
It's that ego and that control. And, they adapted right away. He was still available to the large clients if there was an issue, and they were aware of that. And the transition actually went very smooth. And it took a while. Over the course of a couple of years, what ended up happening is he was able to step back from the business. He was able to launch that nonprofit. And the thing that he wasn't really expecting, he doubled the business during that 2 years, because he was able to spend time getting out there, meeting with big multi-facility organizations that he could clean all their properties.
Oh, that's great. It's interesting. I want to just dive into that point a little bit about the client needing to see the owner.
Yeah.
But there are is there a trick to that? Because I feel like not every client is comfortable with it. I feel like you can't just walk in and then and then disappear. That's like the old, people are like, you're kind of like, oh yeah, it's going to be me. And then all of a sudden it's somebody else. It's almost like a bait and switch. And I feel like that can make some clients uncomfortable. So in a way, owners, when they talk about delegation, that is a viable concern, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about transparency.
Yeah.
Going into it, don't just drop the person on the doorstep with a client. You go with them a few times. He's going to be handling this stuff. I'm still going to be looking over his shoulder. I'm going to be available for calls. He's just going to be there day to day because that allows me to focus on making the business even better for you.
Yeah, that's that step back and don't disappear.
That's right.
Right. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I love that advice. So and that's a great story. So let's say I'm watching or listening to this and I want to get started now. What's one thing a trades business owner or manager could delegate, let's say, this week that would make a real difference?
Look at your business. Find one task that's recurring that you do over and over again and hand it off. Don't just dump it on somebody, but give them clear instructions, give them clear deadlines, and let them run with it. But do that this week. Just pick one thing, doesn't matter what it is, make sure it doesn't kill your business.
Right.
But one thing, it's easy, and do it. It's one of those things that, if you just take that first step, the rest becomes easier.
Yeah, and it's a good point. Like looking at, I bet it's pretty easy to identify that one thing you're doing over and over that you're just like, okay, I really should delegate this. And it's probably the thing that most people are whispering in your ear. You should delegate that. Yep. Wade, this has been great. Before we wrap up, I'm sure some people are going to want to get in touch with you. How can they find you?
So a couple ways. A good way is find me on LinkedIn. If you look up LinkedIn, Wade Thomas, Aim to Win, you'll find me. Another way is my website, www.aimtowinllc.com. And also I have a YouTube channel called Heart-Based Leadership, which is, I assume you'll put in the show notes.
Yeah. We'll put all that in the description. Thanks for doing this, man. Appreciate it. Come back on again. Let's talk about more of these things.
Yep. Sounds good.
Whether you're framing, roofing, or finishing, Metabo HPT has a cordless nailer for every job. Forget the compressor. Ditch the hose. Power on with a nailer that delivers pneumatic performance without the bulk. Thanks to the patented air spring drive system, you get that same powerful punch you'd expect from a pneumatic, but completely cordless. And they're built for comfort. With a lightweight, ergonomic design, they're easy to handle, easy to maneuver, and help you work longer with less fatigue. Need speed? These tools shoot 3 nails per second with 0 ramp-up time. And with features like toolless depth adjustment and easy switch between bump and sequential modes, you're always in control. Plus, with a brushless motor, you get longer runtime, less maintenance, and a tool that's built to last. In fact, they're backed by a lifetime warranty, plus 2 years on the battery and 1 on the charger. So if you're ready to leave the cords and the hassle behind, pick up one of Metabo HPT's new cordless nailers built for the way you work. Metabo HPT, make, move, go.